Hey moms, dads, and grandparents. This is Sandra Beck from Military Mom Talk Radio, and I know how hard it is to provide a great education for military kids. K-12 believes every child is uniquely brilliant, so to prepare them for college and succeed beyond high school, they deserve an education designed just for them. Learn more at k12.com/grade about enrollment. A child's brilliance comes in many forms. Some are curious, others inventive, some are analytical. K-12 is a full-time, tuition-free, online option to traditional public school. Taught by state-certified teachers, schools powered by K-12 provide an individualized education, enhancing your child's ability to succeed. K-12 programs teach to and embrace your child's unique brilliance. Students from K-12 powered schools go on to fine colleges and universities, enhancing their ability to succeed in life. Be part of the community of families who have succeeded with a tuition-free online K-12 education. K-12 welcomes students from grade K to 12. Visit k12.com/grade or call 855-628-9531 for more information about enrolling. That's k12.com/grade.
Global Broadcasting Networks presents Military Mom Talk Radio. We know behind every soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine is the family supporting them. With over 200 episodes in 17 countries, over 5 seasons, with 3 million monthly listeners, we are radio strong. Military Mom Talk Radio is sponsored in part by K-12. No matter where our military families are, K-12 enhances your child's ability to succeed. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we've got a jam-packed show today. We are going to be visiting first with Josh Davis. He wrote a book called 2 Awesome Hours, and what I really like about this book, Rob, I actually have read it twice now, and I implement the things that Josh is talking about in his book, and it's taken my workday. I know this sounds ridiculous, but my workday has gone down from 8 hours to 4 hours, but yet I'm producing more work, and I'm producing it at a better quality.
Isn't that beautiful? Because how many times have we gone to bed at night exhausted and said, I didn't get a thing done today, but we were busy all day long. We never sat down. We were just go, go, go. But whether it be interruptions or loss of focus, and I'm hoping Dr. Josh can give us some tips and some reorientation on all of this, because we do need to do better in our day. We need to make our time more efficient.
Well, and some of the things that we've done, Rob, is that, like Dr. Josh talks a lot about, how much energy we have in our brains and how many decisions we make a day and how many times that, we make choices in the day to do certain things. And one of the things that I have found really helpful from Josh's book, and it's called 2 Awesome Hours. I've taught the kids this, Rob. I taught Max and Zach this, when I start my work day or when the kids start their homework, we start the hardest stuff first, because your brain only has so much energy. It can make only so many decisions in the day before it gets fatigued. And so we can maximize that. And, I used to I'm a big procrastinator, and I used to push off the stuff I didn't want to do till the end of the day, and it would take me twice as long. Sure. And so just realigning the kids' homework, doing the bulk of their hard homework when they first get home, after a snack and a little rest, the bulk of their homework, or me getting into the office and doing the bulk of my difficult work or my money producing work, all of a sudden making that shift means that I spend the most amount of my energy on the things that are most difficult for me, which sounds really obvious, but most of us don't do it that way.
Well, sure, because we want to just sort of start into our day and, well, let's get one little thing done. But then you realize that you've expended your best focus and your best, your brightness, I guess you could call it. And I like the thought that his website is called Bright Sight Group, because think about it, when we are bright, when we are engaged, when we are on our game, that's when we can take any challenge, and we can conquer the world at that point in time. So that's wonderful that we can actually put some scientific evidence behind it.
Absolutely. I'd like to bring on Josh Davis. He wrote a book called 2 Awesome Hours. And Josh, I was just sharing with our listeners what I did with my kids and with myself about putting our most difficult homework first, or putting our my most difficult work first in the morning. And the one thing I forgot to say is, when I have the kids do their most difficult homework first, Rob, the thing that's weird that I notice, they ask me a lot fewer questions. If the tough homework is done later in the night or later in their homework thing, they ask me a lot more questions. They get frustrated more easily. So it's actually a win-win for both of us from the homework and the work standpoint. Josh, why is it that when we do our most difficult tasks kind of first, or, while we're fresh, why is that easier for us?
Well, I think that's a great example of managing your mental energy really well. That, when we have the right mental energy, when we can really think clearly and be present and, make decisions easily, then there are a lot of tasks that we can really kind of get through in very little time. It could be hard things. It could be something creative. It could be challenging. It could be new. It could be a tough math homework set. And actually, the very same thing, we tend to think of these as just sort of abilities that either you have it or you don't. But the same person at a different time of day, or after, being worn out from working all day long, or it's just been awake too long, or haven't eaten in too many hours, that the very same person actually can be less capable of thinking clearly, making decisions quickly, paying attention, being present with what they're trying to do, staying on task. That we actually, our abilities, because we're biological creatures, this mental energy that we have does shift, and it depends on a number of, naturally fluctuating biological factors. And so once you know that, it makes sense to think about, okay, what work needs my best mental energy? Not just how can I squeeze it all into the calendar, not just how can I feel like I'm making some progress, but what work needs my best mental energy? And how can I set myself up for that? And with something like homework, usually it's in the evening, and so it's quite likely that your best mental energy will be what you have first, and that towards later on in the evening you're really going to be running out.
Josh, when you're talking about biological effects or circumstances, how much of your focus is physiological versus psychological?
Well, for people in the field, we actually, the more you know, the less you draw the distinction. That they become two ways of talking about the same phenomena. One of them is talking about the experience of it, and one of them is talking about the mechanisms. But they're really one and the same. I can talk about feeling angry, or I can talk about having elevated blood pressure and narrowed focus, and a hard time letting thoughts go, and a lot of rumination, and one of them is just a higher level description than the other, a bigger, more abstract description, and the other is just getting a little bit more concrete about what anger really is, what's going on, and so. The more you learn about the brain and the body and the brain and the mind, the more you realize that there isn't really a distinction. It's not that the mind somehow influences the body. It's that the mind is a readout of what's happening in the body. It's a philosophical shift that I think actually frees people up, think about
think it's really important because, I used to think of myself, Rob, and you remember these days where I really thought I was an inexhaustible resource.
Oh, yeah. And haven't we all been there? Haven't we all thought, oh, you know what, I'll take on one more job. Oh, I can do that. Yeah, sure, I'll pick up the kids and get all of that done. We've all been there, and sometimes it's out of necessity. I mean, think of the things that we have to do, and sometimes you just have to. And maybe we're not on our best game. So finding those 2 awesome hours, I think, is the premium for us all. Because, and I wanted to ask, Josh, when you say get your most important work done, be your most productive every day, how much time does it really take for us to really settle into that kind of a habit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how long does it take to start to do this, to settle in the sense of, days making it useful, but also just like today, let's say I want to start doing this today, how long before I can really get down to work? What is, I think, particularly useful is to be able to step back for a moment before you work, to just have, it can be 30 seconds even, and to reconnect with what is really the most important work for you that day. And so, for example, today, it was very important for me to make sure that I can really be here with you and not be distracted while we're on this call. There was also a lecture that I was giving, and it was very important to me to be really clear and present for that, and to really know what I wanted to say for that lecture. Other things today are not as important. And so, it's easy for me to identify those. The challenge is remembering those things at the right time. It's so easy to, although I know those 2 things are the most important today, it's so easy for me to, sit down at the computer and see all of the requests for this and that and meetings people want to have and who knows what. And so taking that little bit of time right before I start to ask myself what's important so that I can decide what to do, that is going to make all the difference. Once you have remembered that, then it's just, then it actually doesn't need to take very long at all. But the challenge is in learning how important it is to remember to do that. And one thing that goes a long way towards learning how important that is and sort of understanding how to go about doing that is recognizing that we're on autopilot most of the time. Most of the time, once you get going on a task, and I'm sure most people listening will have this experience, you start checking your email, it could be an hour before you finish, and you sort of realize, whoa, where did the time go? You start reading an article, you can just be lost on it for a half hour. Where did the time go? So, instead, what we can do is to realize that we're probably going to get lost on autopilot once we get started. And that's how time gets wasted. That if you start on the wrong task, time gets wasted. So the trick is to catch yourself before you've started the task, because that's when you can make a decision. So it's right before you've started a task, right after you've ended a task. Those are the times when you can make a decision about what to work on. And the key is capturing those. So focusing on those brief moments.
Our first task of this afternoon is our first commercial break, and we're going to pick up on the other side of the break with Dr. Josh Davis from brightsightgroup.com. Stay with us. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's words you never heard.
The traditional American breakfast, including fried eggs, bacon, toast, and potatoes, must seem really heavy to the rest of the world. When my husband and I were in the Amazon, our breakfast consisted of crocodile, deep-fried piranha, and bananas. I can assure you, I ate pretty lightly. For breakfast in Russia, some people enjoy a spoonful of jam in their tea. Now that sounds yummy. What's a word for a person who loves jam? A poziwala. What's another word for weak tea? Whack-rowdy-dow. Salamagundi was originally an English dish of chopped meat, anchovies, and eggs, garnished with onions, lemon juice, oil, and condiments. Mornings at our house are too hectic to go to all that trouble for breakfast. I'm scrambling just to get some eggs on the table.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and this is Military Mom Talk Radio, and we're visiting with Josh Davis today because we can't get any more hours in our day. You know, I'm a single mom. I have 2 kids. I run a company. Many of you have spouses who are on deployment. You're doing full-time job. You're doing full-time childcare 24/7. So nobody knows more than I do how hard it is to get things done. And what I found after reading Josh Davis's book, I can't give him a bigger endorsement because I gave him I gave his techniques, whatever, a try because I couldn't get any more hours in my day. So I had to figure out something. And I really found that using like 5 of his techniques, Rob, every single day has helped me get more done. I'm less stressful with my kids. I'm less stressful at work. And I'm just functioning better, and it doesn't cost anything. It's just switching some things around that really made a difference. So I want you to realize that you don't need to change. You just need to switch some of the ways you're doing things. And Josh's book explained it to me from a standpoint of an athlete. It's like I was a college athlete. I was a college swimmer, and from the time I was 4 years old, and I knew when my body was tired, I needed to rest it, but I didn't understand my brain was the same way in making decisions. And Josh, I really want to talk about that because one of the things I stopped doing was playing video games when I'd wake up in the morning because it's the only time I could get the iPad, from my kids. And I stopped doing that because I was playing these really complex games and my brain would get tired. Rob, some of the other things that I did to change my way of doing things, we talked about like doing the most difficult things in our day first. But the other thing was limiting the number of things I did that required lots of decisions because, my job requires me to make a lot of decisions. So gaming, especially the type of games I was playing, was not relaxing. It was using up my bandwidth of like if I have 100,000 decisions in my head every day that can be made comfortably, why would I burn 1,000 of them off on a video game?
Yeah, it's true. I think, as he said, we need to assess I guess it boils down to your old-fashioned to-do list in a way. If you know you have to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and those are the most challenging for you, I guess by looking at everything that you've got in a day, it's sort of a check 1, check 2, check 3 kind of a thing.
Oh, well, what I was going to say is I think that's a great catch that you made, Sandra, with the video games in the morning, that each of us has different ways of sabotaging ourselves. And But the trick is, understanding the criteria to watch out for. So, first thing in the morning, most people are actually in a pretty good shape. If you've gotten a good night's sleep, then typically in the morning, you actually can think pretty clearly. You haven't worn yourself out. Now, as the day goes on and you make more decisions, you're actually wearing down that capacity. And it's not that you couldn't keep going if you needed to, but it's that it gets harder. And it's just like, if you've been, running for a few miles, it was harder to then run for another few miles. You could with sufficient motivation, but, it's the same thing with the brain. And so we make a lot of decisions, and then it gets to a point where it just gets harder to make decisions. So in the morning, what many people will do is they'll lean over and pick up their phone and quickly start checking emails. Well, every email requires a decision. Should I respond now? How should I respond? And so on. It requires processing new information. It requires a lot of focus. And the video games, too, actually, is going to require a lot of focus, a lot of processing information, maybe not as many decisions, but still a number of them, and how you're going to play the game and so on. So you're actually waking up and wearing yourself out right before you've had a chance to do something else. And so it doesn't mean avoid the video games. It just means switch the order of things. It means play the video games later in the day or on a day when you don't need to be at your best. If you're just going to be doing some routine work, and it doesn't matter if you show up at your best. So it's catching those little kinds of things that we do. And I think that's a great example of how you don't need to have a whole new strategy and, learn a whole new set of ways to structure your time. It's just a few lessons about how the brain works that you can start putting into practice right away. That was very important to me in writing this book, was that, people who are overwhelmed, and, so many people are, and as you were describing, people in the military have so many tasks put upon them, so many stressors, so many different aspects of their lives to manage, there's just the concept of being able to accomplish it all is nearly impossible. And so good people who work hard end up feeling quite overwhelmed, and typically will just try to cram it all in, because that's what would make sense logically if you got the same output every time you ran the machine. But we're not machines. You don't get the same output. However, you can really get fantastic output from a human in short bursts of time, and then you don't need to be working constantly. So it's a different focus. It's sort of like understanding a few of these things. And because so many people work so hard, it was critical that I not create something where you had to do more work just to put it into practice. So I was looking for ways to communicate how we can think differently, or reorder what we're doing, or set ourselves up with exercise and understand and through understanding when we're overusing our attention and things like that, so that as soon as you put the book down, you can start putting the stuff into practice. I think that's really key. So, I think you've given a great example of that as well with this example of the video games in the morning.
Well, and, Josh, I live in Southern California, where there's no water and, energy bills are high, to run air conditioning. And I think about we look for energy leaks in our house. We look for water leaks in our pipes. And one of the things that struck me, after, doing 3 interviews with you and reading your book twice, I'm probably your biggest fan right now, but as I never thought about what are energy leaks in my body, like energy leaks for me, do I really need to be doing this now? Is this the best use of my energy? And when I came to the conclusion, which I did with Rob a couple of years ago, that, I'm not an inexhaustible resource, and that I needed to manage my resources just like I manage the energy usage in my home from water, air conditioning. We teach our kids to turn the lights off. Right? We get up, as soon as my kids were 4 or 5 years old, hey, shut your lights off, leave the room, save energy. Why are we not teaching our kids and ourselves how to manage our own body energy systems?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we teach our kids to turn the lights off, and yet we teach them the exact opposite when it comes to their mental well-being. We teach them to push themselves to the limit. And so there's an element of, it's a real deep part of American culture, at least, to test your limits and to push yourself. And yet, in this case, it ends up being counterproductive, where you actually won't be able to accomplish as much. and as quickly if you try to just push your limits in terms of endurance. But if you try to push your limits in terms of mastering the art of being productive, I think that's a really different focus.
Josh, what do you think about power naps? Do you think they really do help us kind of regenerate for the rest of the day?
Yeah, so there are several things that will help you regenerate. We're all going to come across times when we're a little bit worn out. It's a little hard to think clearly. Now, most of the time, until you learn to do it, then what people do is just sort of, they don't recognize that they're starting to get worn out. And I do this from time to time also. I'll just, I'll be working on some document and a couple hours will go by, and it's not until I stop that I realize that I can't even really think clearly. But at that moment, what I've learned to do is to actually pay attention to that and notice that I can't really think clearly. And that's one of the things we can start to do, that when we do stop something or when we get interrupted, by the way, that's actually a golden moment. That's an opportunity. It's frustrating when somebody interrupts you, but they've just given you a gift. When that person leaves, you now can check in with yourself to see if you can think clearly and if you're working on the right task. And, 50% of the time at least, I'm not working on the right task. And it really helps me to step back and shift. But so that's one of the things we can learn to do, is to check in and say, can I think clearly right now? And so when you can't, then there are several things you can do to refresh. One is a power nap, which absolutely can help you refresh. One is actually just a little daydreaming, letting your mind wander, not explicitly trying to think about anything, just staring out the window or going for a little bit of a walk. Another is a little bit of mild exercise. And, of course, this will all depend on how much energy you have right now and how easy it is to exercise. And another one, believe it or not, and this one, it just seems so silly and so simple, but it actually makes a measurable difference in your mood, your level of hostility, is to have a little bit of water, a little bit of a refresh. Those people who are addicted to caffeine, and I'm one of them, then, if it's been a few hours since your last dose, then getting your next dose of caffeine actually does help people focus and get back in there.
Gosh.
A thing to know about
Dr.
caffeine,
Josh,
though, is that if you have more than your dose, it won't work.
It won't work. It's just like the opposite. Yeah. Let's get into the habit of a little more water, and we all could use that. Dr. Josh Davis, we have had a fascinating time with you. We want to make sure that everyone finds your book, 2 Awesome Hours, Science-Based Strategies to Harness Your Best Time and Get Your Most Important Work Done. We want to direct you to the book-specific website, which is awesomehours.com. Josh Davis, thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Be with us, and stay with us. We have Dr. Vicki Panaccione on the other side with BetterParentingInstitute.com. We've got lots more ahead. Stay with us on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd. And Rob, wasn't he? I mean, I wish that the audio had been better. I mean, we can't, predict these things. It's a live show, but
sure.
his book is 2 Awesome Hours, and it's really helped me, kind of reorganize, because I'm sure, Rob, you've known me a long time. I don't know, 12 years, 13 years, something like that. You have to notice that my stress level's gone way down, even though I seem to be doing more than ever.
Well, and it's true, and I find that you have harnessed your important things and put it in. It's almost like putting it in perspective. It's not. I think when we're tired, we can't handle stress. We can't handle the decisions, and therefore we make poorer choices. And this way, we are focusing our best energy for our most important part of the day, and then we enjoy the rest.
Yeah, well, and I think just the prioritizing of, homework before video games, seems pretty obvious, but I love that there's a brain rationale behind it, that we're not just arbitrarily, assigning things to our kids.
Right. And that's part of better parenting, isn't it?
It is. And part of better parenting is bringing on our next guest, Dr. Vicki Panaccione, because most of us, Rob, cannot afford private therapy for our children. Most of us are limited by our insurance or high co-payments, or we might not be in an area that therapy is, or therapeutic intervention is, not only affordable but reasonable from a driving standpoint if you're on a base. And then, because of so many issues with the military, people not wanting your stuff to go public, because God knows how great, we are at security with this stuff. There's a million reasons why parents wouldn't be able to get therapeutic intervention for their kids. But that's why we bring on a lot of these specialists so that, we can help where we can. And one of those specialists today is Dr. Vicki Panaccione. And Dr. Vicki, are you with us?
I am, and it's wonderful to be here.
Great. Now, let's talk a little bit before we talk about, the issues that we're going to cover today, your background, so our listeners know who they're listening to.
Well, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I specialize in working with children, parents, and families. My goal is to help parents raise happy, healthy, successful kids and enjoy the ride.
That's a tall order.
That's the operative word, isn't it? Or the operative phrase. and
Absolutely. I really think I put out I put out a lot of fires. But really, I think that our job as parents is the best thing that we do, and raising our kids to become who they're supposed to be is our most important job.
Well, and I like how you said that, Dr. Vicki, because it's about the kids becoming the best they can be, not what we think they should be. And I wanted today to talk a little bit about anger, because I have a lot of kids in my household, Dr. Vicki, over and over. I'm a single mom, so I don't know. I tend to take in every kid in the neighborhood who needs assistance, probably because there's no husband to argue with me about bringing in strays. But one of the things that I notice so much in these kids is that they're angry, and they're angry not because they don't have every material thing under the sun, but a lot of times these parents, in pursuit of their own dreams, and I'm not knocking that because we all need to pursue our dreams, but like I have a particular family of kids that I care for. They show up at my house all the time, and the parents have fancy cars, they've got a boat, they've got an RV, they've got a big house, they've got all these things. The mom is always picking up extra shifts at the hospital, the dad is, whatever. But this kid throws himself on the ground and cries at soccer. He's frustrated beyond belief. And I want to talk today about being present for your kids, because showing up isn't enough. And I see these parents on their cell phones, they're playing games, they're texting. They have not even taken their eyeballs off this device to look at the baseball field or the soccer field. And it's showing up in our kids. And I really want to talk about kids' anger and where a lot of this stems from.
Well, you've come to the right place, because I see children in my office the same thing. And the idea of being present is so important, because children are going to get your attention one way or the other. And if you are not giving it to them, they will act up. Not necessarily consciously, but they want you. And they can get positive attention or they can get negative attention, but one way or the other, they're going to get you.
what does it mean to be present? That's a term we hear so much in the media. Oh, you got to be present for your kids. You got to show up for your kids. And I'm like, if I hear that one more time, I want the ad campaigns to be put the damn phone down,
Right, exactly, because that's really what we're saying. I mean, you can't just be there in body and be on your phones. And there are so many times I have children in my office who say, their mom or their dad that were in the stands, but they missed the shot. They missed seeing them do whatever because they were on their phones. And I think that we have become so addicted, and we've lost perspective and also what our priorities are. I mean, when we're with our children, to be present is to give them our attention. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot being written now that at the hospital ERs, it's called distracted parent syndrome. They're having a lot more kids, like accidents in the playground and things like that, coming to the ER because the parents are not watching. I mean, it's literally a syndrome. And 9 times out of 10, the parents are on their phone. They're looking down. They're not watching their children. And they're not being involved or even present in terms of giving the supervision that children need.
I suppose it's the same as texting and driving. We're not supposed to have a phone in our hand when we're driving. Why should we have that phone in our hand when the safety of our children is, it takes a second. Every mom will validate that. It just takes a second and they fall off whatever, or they run into whatever, or they get knocked over because of whatever. What is one of the things that you're telling some of the clients that come to you about finding time to be present? Do they write an hour in on the calendar? Do they do kids sort of, when that trigger moment happens, do moms need to know, that's my trigger point, I need to refocus and really spend about 15 minutes just talking to my child?
I think they just need to put down the devices. I mean, even the children, too. I mean, everybody's on their device nowadays. And I think it's just important, if you are at an event or at dinner with your children, pay attention to your kids. Having a conversation with your children. I wrote a book that's called What Kids Would Tell You If Only You'd Ask. And it's 101 conversations to have with your kids that you never have to have. It's not like sex and religion and driving and drinking, and it's conversations just to get to know your kids, because the art of conversation is being lost. I mean, I go to restaurants and I watch everybody at the table on their phone. So for me, what I tell parents is to put down your phone, shut it off, pocket it, maybe have an electronics-free hour or 2 hours, and just don't. There's nothing that's that important. There really isn't, especially if you're with your kids. I mean, if we're away from our children, the real important phone call we might get would be about our kids. And if we're with our children, there's nothing that's really urgent that we can't be mindful and present of our kids. And children see this, and they really understand that they are not the priority, that parents' phones and what's ever going on the phone is the priority. I have been in this business for 30 years, and I always have new children draw me a picture of their family and have everybody doing something. And in the last many years now that we've had phones, more and more and more drawings are mom or dad's on their phone. I'm playing, this one's doing this, and mom or dad's on the phone or on the computer. And they're very either consciously or at least subconsciously aware that the focus is being taken away from them. And how do you explain that? How do you really explain to your child that whatever you are doing on your phone is more important?
Well, and I'm going to flip it around, Dr. V, because I had this thing where, my dad got a new cell phone. He's 81. And then my 2 kids were on their devices, and then I was on my computer, and we were all watching TV, which is very funny because we weren't watching TV. Everybody's on the, otherwise occupied. And we had been over to a friend's house, and at first I was horrified when she did this, but now I get it, and now I do it in my house. She has this pretty box, and she takes the box out, and she walks around and says, okay, put your device in, so the iPad, the tablet, the Chromebook, the iPhones, everything goes into the box, and she shuts the box and she goes, okay, now we're going to have family time, because family time does not mean we're all independently wired in. And, and thanks, Rob, for letting me take this to commercial break, because I'm about to go on a rant, Dr. Vicki, and I want to hear what you have to say after the break. But I am so damn sick and tired of these parents telling me, well, we want to empower our children to make their own decision. These boys in my house, every single time Dr. Vicki will choose Batman, they will choose Batman Arkham Knight, they choose Xbox, they use PS2, everything like that over soccer and baseball and music training and dance training, every single time. Even my own children, given their own choice. And where is the parent? The parent's on their own phone. They're not even mindful of what the kid's doing on their phone. And, are you going to text your child in the other room, come to breakfast?
I can't tell you how many families do that. And I totally agree that it's got to be, but it has to start from the parent. So if the parent's always on their devices, they're setting the example. Parents are the active blueprint for their children to model.
Well, right. And it's like, I think that we're raising a zombie generation. I have kids that can tell me everything about these electronic devices. And when I throw a ball at them, and these are not just nerds in my household, I throw a ball at them and they can't catch it. And, there's a real problem in our community. And you know what? I grew up in the country with no electronic devices. We only had 3 stations where I lived. You couldn't even get more stations than that. And we had one television. My dad commanded it for the hockey game. So, you ladies listening today, it's really, really important. Put your phone down, put your device down, because your kids are suffering for it, and so are you. And when you look back and go, wow, where did the time go? My kids are growing up so fast. Don't miss it because you're playing Candy Crush. This is Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And boy, am I in a mood today, Rob. When we come back from the break, I'm just going to, I probably need a
we'll be
or something.
Right back. We'd love to hear from you. Check us out at militarymomtalkradio.com or find us on Twitter and Facebook. Our shows are available on iTunes anytime from 0-100 hours to 23:59. For now, stay right where you are. There's more Military Mom Talk Radio after these messages.
Hey, moms, dads, and grandparents. This is Sandra Beck from Military Mom Talk Radio, and I know how hard it is to provide a great education for military kids. K-12 believes every child is uniquely brilliant. So to prepare them for college and succeed beyond high school, they deserve an education designed just for them. Learn more at k12.com/grade about enrollment. A child's brilliance comes in many forms. Some are curious, others inventive, some are analytical. K-12 is a full-time, tuition-free, online option to traditional public school. Taught by state-certified teachers, schools powered by K-12 provide an individualized education, enhancing your child's ability to succeed. K-12 programs teach to and embrace your child's unique brilliance. Students from K-12 powered schools go on to fine colleges and universities, enhancing their ability to succeed in life. Be part of the community of families who have succeeded with a tuition-free online K-12 education. K-12 welcomes students from grade K to 12. Visit k12.com/grade or call 855-628-9531 for more information about enrolling. That's k12.com/grade.
We're back with more great conversation on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd. I'd like to excuse Robin Boyd from any flashback or feedback from my rant, because I have just had it, Dr. Vicki. I have had it with these video games, and the funny thing is I am a hardcore gamer. When, gaming first came out, I was the one with the water-chilled computer. I can tell you about any video game. I can play Minecraft with the kids as well as anybody, so I'm not some archaic, throwback that says I want things to be the way they were in the 50s, but I've got kids that come and talk to me, and your kid might be one of them, that if you're always on your phone, or then they learn from you to always be on their device, there's no communication. And I will tell you, I had to cut myself off. I talked about this in the first part of today's show, Dr. V, because I was playing Candy Crush in the morning before I'd get up, before I'd get the kids ready, because it's the only time I could get my hands on the family iPad. And, it was using up my brain power for work. So Dr. Davis told me, hey, you need to move this stuff around, which I did, and it made a big difference. But I got to tell you, when I play some of these games, like I used to play Buck Hunt Pro, where you get to shoot, you get to shoot things. It was so much fun, and it was so great, and I became so aggressive. And I'm a grown-up.
Yeah.
I want to ask Dr. Vicki, when we say, all right, we're going to have an hour without, and it's nice if we can just sit down and talk, what are your thoughts about what to do with filling our children's day with other things? Do we give them chores that are more interactive kind of chores? Do we give them, I know, one-on-one talking time, but are there other things maybe that we could sort of the old-fashioned implementing? Now, I just texted in the chat area. I see my neighbor out playing ball with his daughter. They just went for a quick walk around our little cul-de-sac, and now they're going back inside for whatever.
I think that everything in moderation is okay. So I'm not saying, and this is the electronic age, so I'm not saying we need to go back to the 50s and 60s, although they were wonderful times. I think that everything in moderation, but what's happening is that the limits are not being placed, the boundaries, and the good examples of I'm on my phone or I'm on my device or I'm gaming for whatever amount of time, but then I stop and I do other things. It's becoming excessive. So if you want to give your kids a certain amount of time that they can play during the week or on the weekends, I think that's fine. But the limits need to be set. And so then there's time to do many, many, many other kinds of things. So certainly chores are important. Homework and schoolwork is important. One-on-one time, family time, alone time, neighborhood kid time. So the kids are not doing any of those other things because they're on their devices. And so I think if parents limit them, and I know, I'm sure that there are a lot of moms out there saying, oh my gosh, if I try to limit it, there's going to be a battle. Or if I try to say no electronics during the week, only on the weekend, my kid's going to go ballistic. But guess what? If that's going to happen, then you've already got a problem. Mm-hmm. So you need to rein it back in.
I want to ask you with that, because I have this problem in my household. And I have, a problem like many other parents have. My kids play sports. They've got, 2 or 3 hours of practice after week, a couple days a week. They've got soccer all day on Sunday. And then they're straight A students, so they're really good in the classroom, and they really do help me around the house. They do all the things that I ask of them. But the problem that I have, it's almost like a junkie. The minute they're done with all that stuff, that is the only thing they want to do. They only want to go in there and play these video games. And they're getting old. My kids are 9 and 12 now, so I can't. I used to trick them and put these, educational games on. So at least they were getting. So now they're old enough, and they're like, no, I want Mario and I want Batman Arkham Knight, and that's it. And I took my older son to the bookstore this weekend, and we walked around the entire Barnes and Nobles, in which he declared, now granted he's a preteen, so he's apt to do this, there is not one good book in this bookstore, because nothing had to do with the Batman Arkham Knight video game. So what do you do with that?
Well, I think that there needs to be limits. They are like junkies. It's like, okay, I'm done. When can I get on? When can I get on again? Yep. And so, again, if you limit it and say, okay, you can get on, but here's the time. I'm going to set the timer. You got 30 minutes. You got an hour, whatever you've decided, and maybe give a 10-minute or 5-minute warning, but then that's it. It comes off, and then they find other things to do. So they go outside and play, or they build Legos, or they get creative, or they do crafts, or they come out and have a chat with you, or bake brownies with you. I mean, anything else. It's just as long as it's limited and monitored. That's the important thing, that parents set limits and boundaries and be consistent and follow through with what they say. That's what your children will learn is, okay, I can get on it, but I only have so much time.
My ploy when my kids were younger, and especially when they were in that preteen difficult time, I'd always ask them for help. I'd say that I didn't understand something, and how can I do this, and what do you think? And it could be anything from putting some linoleum down on the landing, down cellar, or whatever. But I would ask them for their advice, and somehow giving them that expertise in something else other than the game gave them a little more self-confidence to think, okay, there's more things that I can do. And I don't know if I was out in left field with that kind of ploy, but I have to say, of course, back then we didn't have the same kind of games that kids do today. But it was engaging them in a different way. And I guess that's what I was asking of your advice as far as other ways to engage our kids.
Engaging them in a different way is a great phrase, and I love what you did. And I think that we empower our children and we validate them and say, you are important, and I want your input when you say, hey, what do you think about laying this linoleum or whatever it is? Or can you come in and measure the flour while I'm making the cookies, or whatever it is, or can you cut the lettuce for the salad, or engage them in other ways, and bring out a good old-fashioned board game or a card game, or play something together, charades, or, just teach them some of the old things. I play board games in my office. I have no electronics in my office for when I do therapy with kids. And, I have 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds will get out Candyland and say, oh, I remember playing this when I was a kid. When you were a kid, you're still a kid. and they say, or they'll take out Sorry. They love Sorry and Uno, and just the good old-fashioned games and I said, I bet you've got this on a shelf somewhere. Why don't you go ask Mom or Dad if they can find it for you? Because they love playing the games with me. But that's because they're away from their electronics and they have to find other things to do, and they really love it. And it's interactive, and it's very developmentally appropriate, and there's a lot of things you can get. I wrote a whole thing about, I think there were like 20 or 25 benefits of playing Candyland with your children, your young children. Like 25 benefits of playing that board game. I wrote another article about maybe 20 benefits of playing Jenga with your older children. And there's so much you get in interacting, so much you get information when you're playing with your kids that you don't get when you're on your electronics.
Well, and I'm just going to buzz in here and go, because, when I hear you say this, I know it's right, but there's a big old lazy side of me that goes, oh, I've got to get the games out. I got to put them on the table. That means that I can't watch, Frasier or my downtime, and I'm just being totally honest here. It's an effort. I will do it because I wrote down I'm going to have Tech-Free Tuesday, which means, Tuesday nights we're going to be tech-free, all of us. No devices, no anything. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll probably have a stroke. And then I thought, well, what about Wednesday night game night? Because that's the one night we don't have soccer, we don't have baseball, we don't have, handbells or ballet. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to implement Wednesday night game night, and we're just going to start slow. I'm going to put one game and we'll play it at the kitchen table for like a half an hour. But it's going to be a big effort for me, and I know that sounds ridiculous because both of my kids, like on Tuesday nights, that's like my bath time. And when you're juggling everything, it's an effort, but it's as much as I rant and rave, it's an effort that I'm willing to make, and I put the challenge out to other moms because if I can do it as a single mom, 2 kids, company owner, taking care of my 81-year-old dad, if I can do it, you can do it, and you're not going to lose pulling out a family game once a week.
Oh, Sandra, you know what? I know what you're saying. It's kind of like it's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be an effort. And I think initially it will, again, because it's adding something else into your busy schedule. So kudos to you for even thinking about doing it. However, the benefit that you're going to get, like a 30 minutes or an hour of uninterrupted interaction, playing games, laughing, challenging with your boys. When you really look at it that way, I mean, there's nothing more important to do during that time than be with your kids, totally being with your children. And the key word is enjoying. Don't make it an effort, like, oh, I'm going to sit down and play a board game right now, because then it's going to be an effort and they're going to feel it. But if you go, hey, guys, you know what? Mom used to love playing this game. I really want to play it with you. Let's do it and have fun and laugh and kid around and joke and encourage them and praise them and good for you. You're ahead of me and all that kind of stuff. You're going to get a whole lot of benefit, and your children are going to get a whole lot of benefit because you made them their priority, your priority.
Okay, I'm sold. I'll do it. Okay, I've got Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. And and the sad thing was, Dr. V, I spent my entire childhood playing board games with my brothers and sisters, and I loved them. I bet you I own 25 different customized Scrabble games, from the NHL Scrabble to the Harry Potter Scrabble. And, I've been buying them and collecting them because I wanted to play with my kids. And I'm just going to say it. I'm ashamed to say that they're all sitting in the box. They're sitting on the shelf. And until today, it occurred to me at times to take them out. But now I got to put my money where my mouth is. If I'm going to shoot my mouth off on the air, yelling at everybody else to get off their phone, I got to pony up.
You do, and then you can come back and tell me and tell your listeners how it went. But Candyland and Chutes and Ladders is too young. They're too young for your boys unless they choose them.
Right. Or we could play them backwards, because I like to do things backwards. We're like, okay,
but sometimes they do. I mean, I have even 12-year-olds who will reminisce, like, oh, man, I used to play this game. And then they'll play it. She'll give them a variety even and say, which one do you want to choose? And I wouldn't even be surprised if they picked Candyland, because it brings them back to their childhoods.
Okay, girls, there you go. There's the gauntlet. Dr. Panaccione, right from the doctor's mouth. Military Mom Talk Radio. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Military Mom Talk Radio. Want more information? Check us out at militarymomtalkradio.com or find us on iTunes for more than 200 free episodes. Drop us an email or find us on Facebook. We are looking forward to another great discussion. We hope you'll join us on Military Mom Talk Radio.